motion.
Second.
Well, hold up, we gotta be on.
This one.
All right, motion made by Mr. Morrison, second by Mr. Gaines. Let the record reflect that no action was taken.
Okay.
Yeah.
Surely we got time to go.
All right.
Oh, yeah.
Let's get them going now.
Thank y'all for hanging around.
We won't wait on Steve. Steve's the man of the hour.
Okay.
Oh, so yeah. we
Oh, so
better
it's
do
got to
that.
do with Steve.
How you doing, John? You brought somebody we do all the work?
She does all the work. That's right. Told her she had to come because you might be mean to me, but you won't be mean to her.
That is so true. Well, I classify mean, John classified mean, probably not the same thing.
Steve, no.
Daniel's not here, so, but I'll tell you guys, the Joe Edwards situation at Palo Verde, that's, this is just a heads up for you guys. The you know what's gonna be hitting the fan here pretty soon, so just be aware,
Sure is.
okay? Be aware.
Like, the day is coming soon?
Yes, sir.
Okay,
D-Day approacheth.
okay. Good deal. Well, I'm glad we backed off and being reasonable about our request. I think it's fair, you know.
Yeah. Well, I mean, well,
Yeah, yeah.
there's more to that story.
Brian, you got a cold?
Yeah, I've had one for about 2 weeks and went my serious.
Everybody's waiting on you, Steve.
Oh, anybody want any coffee?
It was your show, man.
I'll get you some coffee.
Say, get up and go grab him.
Sorry.
Come on, Steve, so we can get this thing going.
I'm
Okay,
sorry.
well,
Gary.
actually, I'm good now because it's after 11 and, Brad and I had a little something going on about 11 o'clock. Hey,
All right, so what, who needs to kick
Okay,
this off?
let's go.
Come on, John. And
We can sit there and look at each other, we can get going.
That's right.
I'm gonna let John introduce and, explain. We had some others that had to leave because of a prior commitment, so, John gets caught up to speed. Let me give you the backstory right quick. Y'all, this is no surprise or shock to anybody. There is pressure on county infrastructure in certain parts of the county, where we have basically rural farm type roads, farm to market roads, logging roads, a lot of gravel public roads, that there's areas there that are subject to significant development pressure where the infrastructure is not capable of supporting the type of development activity that we're seeing. And so we are exploring the option of looking at ways to address that development pressure, and to introduce some ways to better enhance that infrastructure or protect it, and allow the development to happen in a more controlled setting. And we just need some additional thoughts and some ideas behind that, and so that's what you're gonna be hearing about from Mr. Rounsable and others. Take it away, the floor is yours, John.
All right, Greg. Have you shared with them
No, sir.
any materials?
I have not.
If I could. There's a statement page.
All right. That's for me, thank you.
thank you, sir.
That's for you.
Yeah, I'm John Ronsville with Wagner Engineering. With me is Kimberly Whalen, one of our planning specialists at Wagner. I think the best way to explain is Mr. Gaines and I spoke about, again, some of the development pressure ongoing in his district. and I hope I'm not speaking out of school, but what stuck with me over the conversations we had was, you know, maintaining the integrity of high-quality development. We've got Mayberry, or our citizens view us as Mayberry. We've got all this high growth occurring, not just in your district, but the entire county. And you didn't want to be, it sounds self-serving if you say this, I think less so if I say it, but it stuck with me as I was putting pen to paper and fleshing out this concept. But 10 to 20 years from now, you don't want to be the guy that could have stopped wild, unmanaged growth that negatively impacted the growth in the county. Or you didn't want to be the guy that didn't get his arms around this, and you end up negatively affecting infrastructure or drainage, exacerbating the flooding issues in the county.
Exactly right, John.
So we kind of brainstormed a little bit on a concept to get our arms, or help the county get its arms around a lot of this growth pressure, the development pressure. And we kind of broke it out. What we're proposing is to break it out into kind of 3 components. The first task would be somewhat of a needs assessment, assessing current capacities across the board. Your infrastructure, whether it's water, sewer, on-site septic, roadways, school capacities, schools busting at the seams, fire and emergency support personnel and services. Looking at the existing capacities in the district in comparison to what are the recommendations or recommended services to be available based on current growth trends and future projected growth trends. Once we have our hands around kind of where we are, we need to have a public outreach effort, because your citizens need to know, why are we even doing this? Or, yeah, we know we've got issues, the schools are busting at the seams, or we don't feel like we have adequate emergency services or whatever. So the second task in the concept is to engage the public, get input from the public to you know, document what their desires are for the future of the district. And I've got a number. These are not to exceed numbers, but we don't really know what the budget is going to be. You know, for example, you know, we get into the public outreach effort. Is 1 community engagement meeting enough? 2, 3? Do we need a more comprehensive? Are we touching people the right way? Are we getting input and feedback the right way? So it's kind of open, but again, that's a not to exceed number that I've budgeted for. So it's like a menu of items to pick from, and the same with the ultimate final plan. It would be kind of a menu-based approach too, based on what the perceived needs are. Once you've identified your capacities in an overall assessment through task 1. You know, say you finish task 1, we feel like we've got our arms around things well, we know where we are, we know where we're headed. We go into task 2 with more public engagement to get feedback into that task 1 document, and then we see, you know, what level of detail do we need to get into in a final plan in task 3. So that's kind of a broad overview. I hope I did an okay job of explaining that.
So the concept kind of originated in and around District 4, and that's where we have seen the greatest amount of development pressure, where there are inadequate infrastructure issues, okay? That doesn't mean that the rest of the county doesn't benefit from some of this as well. I think it could be expanded to some of the other districts, but where you get the most significant pressure that we see is in District 4. The greatest impact on the school system has been in District 4. The greatest impact on substandard existing public roads has been in District 4. The greatest impact on drainage challenges, we've seen them in other areas, but the greatest challenge has been 4 and migrating into 2, and those go together because they're in the same watershed. So the idea was, let's focus on District 4, and then if the board is of a mind to take it to a broader approach and maybe expand the concept of a plan for development activity, we could use that same approach in other areas. But right now, the thought process was, and we all know that at some point, a decision is gonna have to be made about how do we both, if the board is of a mind, to put together a plan that helps us to better address these challenges. At some point, the board's gotta make a decision. What do we do about the fact that there will be continuing requests for development while we're trying to put together a plan? How do we deal with that? And if you do that, it depends on how you do that as to what the impact could be
Still a
across
moratorium on
the
development.
multiple districts.
Well, we don't wanna use that word. No, today, we had an applicant wanting rezoning. We've looked at, I think he's in stage 5, or 5th phase, or whatever. And I said, this is something that we're gonna really, may not have anything to do with the zoning part, but as far as the rest of this that we're talking about. Where he's at was cut over timber, just 8 years ago. The timber company says, we're through with timber, this land's more valuable, we're selling it. So we're out of farming, so it's pretty hard to say you need to stay in agriculture. And you got people that wanna move there, but we've gotta do it right. Even the people that live there, they've only been living there a few years. Say, no, we don't want anybody else building in here now. Well, how do I say no? But we can manage, hopefully we can manage to where we can live together and not cause each other problems. Flooding, this area is one of the flattest parts of Rankin County, it's farm. And whenever we push up a site to build a house on, it displaces water somewhere else. And just in the last year, it's been brought to my attention, homes that had flood waters that have been there for 90 years, one of them.
Never had 'em.
Never, ever. And this wasn't a really fast storm that, so anyhow, I thought we had beaver problems. We got one of our experts tracked down the creeks. He come back and said, no, you don't have beaver problems, you got settlement problems.
It's just,
From this
just
development
development.
around in the swamps, even 5-6 miles away, you can see it down there. It scared me. I mean, it really bothered me that, like John said, we can all drive down 25 and look over our shoulder and say, oh, boy, how come I didn't think that was gonna flood? Well, it's easy to do now. Or, I mean, there's some other places, it's not 20, 30 years old
Right.
that flood. And once you get to that point, it's almost impossible to fix it. I don't want to let this happen where we don't have to do it.
You don't wanna turn into something like we have to deal with up around
I
Reservoir.
don't wanna do that.
And that's because of years ago.
So if we
There's
can
nothing like
manage this,
Yeah.
the atmosphere, the people want space, they want quietness, they want a rural area, but they're taking it away from themselves when they come in thousands. So we've got to see how best to handle it, and the schools. I think we should have someone that, to help guide us, that has a lot of school, like Grumpy, that's been on boards and things, that can just sit there and listen and say, that don't sound good, or that sounds great.
they need to be included.
Yep.
If for no other reason than for planning purposes for the school
Yeah,
district
so
itself.
we can communicate back and forth.
Yep.
All right.
So-
I would like to put this together. How are we gonna fund it? I'm gonna have to get with y'all. I'm sure that the lion's share of it's gonna come out of something that has to do with my end of the county, and I'm willing to do that. It's worth it, to take that money and maybe save $500 million in 10 years from now, whenever places are flooding and we're blowing bridges out. And Holly Bush Road is a prime example. We went in there and changed every big culvert just so that we wouldn't get caught with a lot of flooding this past year.
Yeah.
All right.
John, I don't know if you're aware, but we're currently going through our land use plan right now. I mean, we're in the middle of updating it, so I think some of this should be accommodated through that. You know, I know a lot of this isn't, but I'm with you, man, you know, if you wanna pay for it, I'm all behind it.
Where did I hear that before?
I
Whoa,
mean,
goes around, comes around, huh?
I think it's a county issue all over the
Yeah,
county.
it really is.
It's,
It ain't-
Well,
It's not
if-
just one district.
If I could just suggest one thing, that there will be some challenge,
yes,
okay, to the need to be, to have a timeout, a resting, cooling off period that allows us to get our arms around these questions and to visit with the community independent of a lot of pressure to proceed with some things that may be different from what we ultimately come up with a plan for. So there's gonna be some challenge to that, and so I want y'all to be thoughtful about it. The idea is to narrowly tailor this to one specific supervisor district. To hold,
well, isn't that kinda up to us to move it forward though? We don't have to allow a subdivision to be done,
right, well,
you know what I mean, without having to officially
right.
do anything.
Well, yeah, I mean, yeah, you're right, I mean, but,
by notifying everybody ahead of time that
we're gonna look at,
during this period, this short period of time, there will be a stay, there will be this pause. By doing that, you've given them notice of what you're doing, okay? So there's not going to be an argument that could be made in court on an appeal saying they constructively denied my request for action by telling me just wait, we'll get to it when we can. I don't wanna have to deal with litigation where they argue, consider their reply to me that we'll talk to you in 6 months to be a denial. I don't wanna be in that. I'd rather say on the front end, we're gonna need this short period of time
yeah,
to conduct a review, and here are the reasons for it, by the way, you've got them right here. Here are the reasons for it, and you make that finding, and you make it official, and that way everybody is on the same page. Everybody's on the same page.
I don't know if it's a good idea for you, really.
I'm gonna just think about it. Hey, I do wanna be
It's almost
clear,
gonna be though like without using
Well-
words, it's gonna be almost like a
I
moratorium.
hope we're not that long, I mean, I hope
I
it's
know,
not
but I
more
mean,
than
until you get something worked
Yeah,
out.
well, he's pretty
Yeah.
quick. I wanna be clear that if someone comes in and says, I'm ready to build my house, I've got, you know, I don't care, the size of the lot is not as important as a topo. You've got lots in La Bourgeois that are sitting on top of the hill.
Yeah.
It's not gonna flood, you know, so you may be okay
He
with
may
an
be,
acre and a half or
he may be sending a lot of
whatever.
silt down the hill though.
Let me put some-
And square foot, that's
Right.
not part of this at all.
Right.
It's an individual that comes in and says, I'm ready to build, or, what, we're talking about bigger developments.
Yes.
That will change the map on
Right.
floodwaters, on roads, infrastructure, schools.
Take for instance, the developer that we set the public hearing for.
Yeah,
If we go ahead and approve that rezoning,
that
I
is
mean-
only the rezoning now, that,
I know, but if it gets rezoned, I mean, and he's already presented, has he presented a site plan or anything like that?
He's got-
I mean,
Preliminary
Tim
plan.
can,
We've got,
I mean,
we're in
thing
the
is-
process of setting up a pre-development conference on that.
but so, I mean, within a
We have-
month,
we have had
within a month or
plans
so,
to approve.
yeah, but I mean, a month or two, he's gonna want
You're gonna have to show
to
him.
start developing that property.
There
I
are
thought he-
ways to
he thought he
structure
hauled
what we're
dirt.
talking about here
He's not hauling
that
dirt.
will affect development
He's not
at
gonna
a
do anything.
particular point in time.
he
Okay?
has.
So if
I
there's
don't think
already
he's
been an
done.
application, if we're already considering things, the board has the purview at that point to exempt that one area of development from whatever decision the board makes.
But that's a big area.
Yeah, but
right
that's,
there,
that
and
may
that's the
affect
main-
what he's trying to,
I agree with you. but
Correct.
It's we've gotta get a starting point
Yep.
and an ending point, and then decide what is going to be subject to that action.
well, this whole development that this gentleman has done, then along with this, now maybe creating some of the issues that you're wanting to prevent.
I know, I understand,
Yeah,
and I
so-
think he is gonna work with us,
Yeah, by all means, he should be actively involved
Yeah.
in this whole process.
Mhm.
He's got a lot,
Yeah.
the values
Potential
of the
development.
properties in the last 5, 6 years have way more than doubled.
Yeah, but that's,
And if we don't do something, you're gonna start seeing it going a different direction. When
But-
water starts getting in some of these houses.
my
and we-
thing is how many homes been built out there on the first phase 1 or 2? Those phases are not completed yet on where the homes are. And I mean, we jumping from that phase 1
They're-
and all the way
they're-
to 5.
There's,
Most
well,
of
the
those are on
lots,
public
I mean,
road.
most of them
They're
on
on
public
public
roads.
roads,
Yeah,
that's
that's right.
they're on public roads,
none
and
of
most
those-
of them are sold out and built out of his.
well, here's the point. That's the very reason we're having this conversation. Because they are fronting on a public road. That is substandard. It wasn't built to a
Right.
county standard because it wasn't a standard when it was put in place. We accepted it for public maintenance as a gravel road, as a logging road. It's okay. We got them
Years
all over
ago.
the county.
But then the supervisor gets pushed
Pressure.
pressure from the.
And we are trying to make it clear from this point on, if you build this development like we're looking at today, you're responsible for your roads 100%, which there's no roads there. If you're wanting to go down this gravel road, we brought the roads to them that really enhances their ability to sail and stuff. We brought it to them, but I think we're through with developing roads for new developments.
And part of this plan
It's just-
probably would be, a recommendation would be, if you're going to allow additional development of this type, that is, buy 60 acres, all of it is served by a public road, and strike off 5-acre lots all the way down it. If you propose that, this plan would say, you gotta bring that entire stretch of road up to current
Yeah.
required standard, all the way down.
Yeah, the only
This
problem,
guy's
you've already
already
done this,
benefited
now you're
from all
gonna start
that.
down here, make him pick up.
It's money in it too.
I know,
Yeah,
but still though,
yeah,
I mean,
yeah. Oh, yeah.
he's been, I think, the single biggest
At that place.
beneficiary of it.
At that, yeah, at that location.
Yeah.
Well, and I mean, we require them to have an engineered study.
Oh,
I mean, couldn't
yeah.
their engineer do more?
That's gonna be part of this. There's gonna, we wanna
But
maybe a
we're paying for
different
this where they
layer.
should be paying for.
Well, we can
You
get
wanna
to
wind
that.
up in what,
but-
is it Indian Mound or
Yeah.
something?
Yeah, we,
Yeah.
that's where I wanna get to.
Okay.
Where we have enough layers that we feel protected and our citizens that are already out there are protected.
So we're structuring a plan for additional development in the future. It's a plan. It's how.
Well, it's not we acted on today, is it?
No,
No,
no, we're just, I
I
think.
wanted to give you guys the concept. We feel like
I don't know how it's gonna help what you got going on now.
Well,
one big piece of
yeah, I
this
know.
is the inclusion of
But you gotta start somewhere.
Yeah, but I mean.
public discussion.
What you're going on now, maybe it's
Public
a problem with the
discussion.
road. I
That-
mean, it's
that's
creating
stage
problems
2.
With that road.
Community outreach.
I don't know how many folks are dying to go out and build new developments right now.
Right, and it may be, that may be a good time for this to be
I think it's a great thing
discussed.
personally.
But
Don't lose sight of this community development
Yeah.
piece. We need to let
We
the
want the
people
community.
speak on this.
yes,
So we can figure out what is the public that has to live in this? What are their biggest concerns and how do we address those? That's just good government. So I think this has a lot of potential to provide us with a pathway of how we can do this in other parts of the county.
Well, the stormwater plan y'all did for us, Zophie, whenever we were going through all of it, that was there was a lot of, attention given to areas where we should not allow development to be taking place. So, we probably should incorporate that.
That will
Yeah.
need to be
Yeah.
incorporated into this.
That's a hard one to fight,
Okay.
and you go down here and they're filling in a swamp down here to build a, truck stop there,
Yeah.
Pearl and 80.
You know what, Jared
Pearl.
does? You don't tell them, no, you
What
can't.
was there?
You just tell them, if
What
you're
they're
gonna
going
do
to do.
this, here's what it's gonna mean for you.
Yeah.
We're not telling you no, but here's what it's gonna mean for you. And some of what it's gonna mean it's too early to have this discussion, but just to, again, to whet your appetite for my dream scenario, at some point, there is going to be this political subdivision called a drainage district that gets to implement a structure for letting people who contribute to stormwater problems pay for it.
Yeah.
So then they can make their own economic decision. How bad do I want that truck stop that's in the flood zone? How bad do I wanna bring it 36 inches above base flood elevation? Just how badly do I wanna do that?
Well, and we also want the study to show us when we bring it up 36 inches for 5 acres, where is that displaced water going?
And I'll tell you what.
Because it's not gonna be there, it's
While you're
somewhere
on
else.
the same subject, exact situation, where people go in and just build a pond, and that overflow, I got a road that has 2 of them on it. And, they blew out dams and everything else. Old Pearson, they built these ponds, which they have been built, but that's where our flooding comes from, that causes problems with our road. That's what blew that dam out, up there, not dam, that, huge culvert. Took it right out of the road, because that dude's pond, or all that rain we had that week.
Blew out the dam?
Blew out the
No,
road,
Cam,
the
that's
culvert
their
running under the
spillway.
public road.
Their spillway goes over into the public road ditch.
But I
And
don't
went
know
through
if that caused it, cause it would've been just the same amount of water going through there before, wouldn't it? How?
Not when no. When all the water drains from way off here, hits that pond, the pond ended up stopping. No, it blew it out. You go down, I got pictures of it. It looked like you had taken that.
I just don't understand how you think, I mean, I could get it if a pond dam blew out and all of a sudden
If
it
the
released
pond
a lot
didn't
of
have
water.
any water in it. It was
But
filled
if,
with
you say the pond's already full and it starts raining, it's still gonna be the same amount of water it goes through.
There'd be a lot more if you blew it
Whole
out.
lot.
But, I mean, if it's not blown out,
Yeah,
you know,
A
so.
whole lot more. And we got water runs down another ditch coming out of a pond, and it's what floods the road. So, I mean, the flood road wouldn't flood if that pond wasn't draining into it. So I think really where you put a pond, almost it needs to have a permit and looked at how it might impact a road, not out there in the field somewhere.
We're supposed to already, so.
Well, no, evidently not.
Well, I mean, you know, before we
That's
put
really
developments,
DEQ,
as far as
isn't it?
them
Don't
high
they
hazard dams
keep
and all that
doing
stuff.
No, I don't mean that. I'm talking about how it would impact our roads where
roads,
that
yeah.
water drains out.
Yeah, I think it's certain size.
But anyway, that is a problem when they build these ponds and they dump all the water right in the ditch,
What gets
which the
DEQ
ditch is not
involved
built
is the number of
adequate to handle
households
that amount of
below it.
runoff
Yeah, but everything
at the
depends on
spillway.
that. My thought is that you're not being asked to decide anything. This is introductory. This is to provide you with the information, to give you this is to give you the cost estimate. This is to give you a pathway
Right.
to begin addressing this. The hard decision that looms is how do we make it workable? How do we apply this in an environment where we are not under pressure before we get a plan, right? So y'all gotta put some thought into that and then decide when are we gonna have this discussion formally and make a decision. You got your information, so review it. And then y'all talk amongst yourselves about when you wanna act on this. And your decision may be, we don't wanna act on this. That's an okay decision if you decide to do that.
Alright.
Any other questions?
No,
For these guys, thank y'all very much.
sorry y'all had to wait so long.
That's fine.
Thank you for your hard work on it.
Thank you for coming to business today.
Yeah.
All right. If there's no other further business to be discussed, do I have a motion to adjourn till December the 5th?
So move.
Second.
Motion made by Mr. Morrison, second by Mr. Gaines. Any discussion? Not all in favor, say aye. Aye. All opposed, like sign. We are adjourned.
All right.
Man, we're gonna have quite the hit on our general